I am good at a great many academic skills. I am good at science, both natural and techie stuff. I am good at history. I learned to read at a very early age. Nearly all my educational career was marked by excellent grades. It's true, I rarely got any grade below a B+, and even that was a rarity. Part of it may have been my parents' influence. They were both academic people. My dad was a veterinarian, and my mom was a journalist. So my sister and I were strongly encouraged on the importance of education. That might also be why I learned to read and comprehend what I was reading at an early age. I was also good at writing and using proper phrasing and expressive prose effectively and enjoyably. One might think that I never had any issues in school with all that knowledge and skill. And assuming that one would be wrong. Being excellent at reading and writing and comprehension does not always translate into being great at spelling. Yes, spelling, the bane of my academic life. Thanks to computers and spell check, that bane has not held me back. But in early school, we had these unpleasant things called spelling bees. Why? Spelling didn't remind me of honey. Spelling didn't pollinate anything. Spelling made my brain feel like it was buzzing in the wrong way. Was that why it was called a bee? Who knows? It reminded me of something that was not fun and extremely stressful. A spelling bee was part contest and part life torture device in the form of a verbal test. I was horrible at spelling. Yes, that's right. I said live and oral and test, meaning that someone would say a word out loud, and then you, the student, had to repeat the word and spell it correctly out loud, or you lost. It sucked. I always felt stressed and humiliated, and that was just leading up to the spelling bee. I didn't understand the purpose of them. Some schools had friendly competitions in the form of this awful torture. And yes, now you can watch competitive spelling bees on TV. Why? I don't understand. I mean, who would want to watch that? But then it was less formal and more of an inter-school or inter-classroom thing. Again, I did well with reading, comprehension, writing, word usage, you name it, except spelling. When we had vocabulary as kids in school, I never had a problem. In fact, I typically could define the words as soon as I saw them before we had to look up the definitions. I could fill in vocal definitions and answer vocabulary questions before our lessons even started. But part of the whole literary experience in school is spelling, and I loathed it. And we had to participate. I was like some weird school spirit thing. Come out and support your school in a spelling bee. I saw it coming. The posters were being put up on walls and in the stairways advertising the spelling bee. We were competing against another school, but first, our classrooms had to compete amongst ourselves as practice. It was like March Madness, but with spelling. In my English class, I sat down in the back of the class by the window, trying to be as invisible to my teacher, Miss Fell, as possible. My friend Manu sat next to me, and we were joined by my friend Alex. Alex was great at spelling, so was Manu, but he had no interest in competitive spelling. Alex, on the other hand, loved spelling bees. She loved competition periods, probably because she usually won. Miss Fell checked the class chart to take attendance. Then she announced that our class was going to compete against Mr. Bradley's class the next day. Mr. Bradley was Tay and Shanae's English teacher. The audience would be the younger students, lucky ducks. The first and second graders were off the hook. After checking the attendance, Miss Fell announced that we were going to, can you believe it, have a practice bee before we met Mr. Bradley's class in the auditorium. We all stood up, and Miss Fell called on each of us to spell a word. If you spelled correctly, you kept standing and got a piece of candy. If you got it wrong, you sat down. While getting to sit down didn't sound so bad, I still wanted to do well. I had spent the last night studying all of my vocabulary words and other possible words that would be used. And yes, I also wanted a piece of candy. I waited my turn. Alex and Manu both got their words correctly. 2 kids so far had to sit down. Then it came to my turn. Acropolis, Miss Fell assigned my word. Acropolis, I repeated. A settlement or temple built in a strategic hill in ancient Greece. Great definition, Miss Fell praised. Now spell it, please. That wasn't on my study list. Yes, I knew it was because I love Greek mythology, but just because I knew what it was and could picture it in my mind, the actual word with letters, didn't appear in my mind. And besides, I could have studied it for hours, and days even, and yet the word would just disappear. My mind went blank. I had studied so hard, and I couldn't think of anything. My mouth went dry. Okay, just sound it out in your mind. A-C-K, I started. That is incorrect, Miss Phelps said. I had a feeling she knew what a bad speller I was. I sat down, and she went on to the next person. I wanted to crawl under the desk and hide. Why was I so embarrassed, I wondered. I wasn't the only person in the class that had to sit down for misspelling. I wasn't even the first. What was it about this that made me so stressed and felt so awful? As I sat and listened to other kids taking their turns, I couldn't help but wonder why this bothered me so much. I couldn't understand it. It wasn't because I enjoyed spelling. Then, of course, I wanted to be good at it. It wasn't like I couldn't spell. I could. I was just not good at it. As the time went on, some kids, like Alex and Manu, were still standing, but most of us, though, were all sitting. And that was another thing. Looking at the other kids sitting, it was apparent to see that we were in the majority. Why did not doing this well cause me such stress? Later at dinner, I didn't feel hungry. I just felt so stressed to eating anything. The food tasted like dust in my mouth. Jay, are you all right? Mom asked, looking at me concerned. Are you sick? No, I have a spelling bee tomorrow, I said. Wait a minute. If I were sick tomorrow, I wouldn't have to go to school. But I do feel sick now that you mention it. I think that you are just stressed, Mom said. You are good at so many things, but spelling isn't your strong suit. No, I agreed. That's all right, though, Dad said. You don't have to win at everything. So I don't have to go to the spelling bee tomorrow? I asked, hoping that was what Dad was getting at. It wasn't. Of course you do, Dad said. You have to try. I think that you hate it so much because you are used to doing well in school. While spelling is just a part of an English class, it is important. And while it is important, there is no reason that you have to be better at it than anyone else. It's okay if you are not successful at it, but again, you have to try at least. If you think it may help, you can try to figure out a different strategy of how you can remember the spelling of the word, because just studying doesn't seem to work for you. Stressed, I finished my dinner and went to bed. I couldn't sleep that night. In the morning, I turned on the computer and looked up Acropolis. I saw photos of the Pantheon. I saw pictures of ancient Greece. I saw lots of things that didn't help me to figure out how to spell better. I looked at the images and wished I were anywhere but here. Then I noticed the definition of the word, which included the origin. Ancient Greek, akros, meaning highest, topmost, or outermost, and polis, meaning city. That made sense. That made a lot of sense. I bet if I could figure out words this way, I would be able to spell them. I looked at other words and was fascinated by their origins, and how much the spelling for most of them made sense. I felt more confident as I got on my bus to take me to school. I actually felt great. This spelling bee wasn't so scary after all. Perhaps I might even win it with my new strategy. No, I didn't win the spelling bee. Of course not. I had only just discovered my strategy and hadn't had real time to put it into action. And I didn't expect to win either. Even at that young age, I knew better. But what learning that strategy did was that it made sense of something for me that had been almost like Greek to me. Just the act of making sense and doing something to fix the problem gave me more confidence and peace of mind, and I didn't go blank when my turn came. I spelled Acropolis without a problem. I spelled the next two words and then misspelled the last one. Shanae in Mr. Bradley's class won the spelling bee. I was happy for her, and I felt a sense of accomplishment. Yes, I was proud that I was able to spell 3 words. I learned a lot from that experience. I learned to step back from a problem and figure out how to deal with it. I also learned that I could not do everything, nor could I be the best at everything, and that was all right. After all, as my grandpop Ernesto had said on more than one occasion, if you are the best at everything, then how will anyone else get to shine? And he was right. If only one person gets to win at every single thing, no one else will get a chance, and it would be so boring, even if it were me that succeeds at everything. Hey, thank you for watching. Please click on the right to subscribe if you liked the video. And please don't forget to click on the bell icon when you subscribe so that you can be notified when we upload a new video. Watch more videos on the left, including our playlist. Thank you.